Welcome back to my boyfriends to the channel, all the sexy boys and girls. Yes, guys, here we are. We have another video reaction. 19 weird things Swedish people do that you should do too as well. Yes, guys. Without further ado, let's start the reaction.
Hey everyone, I hope you are doing amazingly. Today I'm going to share the craziest, most wonderful, and best Swedish traditions that I think you should try too.
Okay,
From how we
queen.
cut our pizza, to how we raise our children, to how we sleep, here are some of my favorite Swedish traditions that I think everyone in the whole entire world should do. So let's get started. We cut our pizza with scissors. This is also a minimalist hack because you no longer need to use a silly pizza cutter that you literally cannot use for anything. Instead, just use your kitchen scissors to cut pizza. Cutting pizza is such an easy and fun way to slice pizza. One of my favorite hacks.
But don't you guys use the scissor for other things as well? Is it hygienic?
For a happy marriage, and a Swedish tradition that I grew up with, is to have separate duvets. Having separate duvets makes so much more sense. It is so much more comfortable. You never have to fight with your partner over a blanket, and it just makes a world of difference. If you have one duvet, it's big and bulky and it's crazy. Just try 2 duvets and see if it makes you feel any better.
Thank you so much for solving my problem. Oh my god. I was just waiting for a solution, and thank you. I was not waiting to get the answer from this video from Swedish people, but as always, they always have a solution for my problems as well, because I guess in my previous life I was in Scandinavian.
Speaking of duvets and bedding, the next thing that is really important that you should try, that we all do in Sweden, is that we have a duvet cover and a duvet inner and a sheet to make our bed. We don't have any top sheets, we don't have any blankets. That is absolutely disgusting. Sorry, but it is because you don't really wash them as often. You need to have a duvet if it's cold in your country, and you need to put the duvet inside of the duvet cover, and then you wash the duvet cover weekly, and this way you have a very clean bed.
Oh,
When I
I've
first
seen
came to
no
New Zealand,
lie.
I was taught about the idea of a top sheet, and you sort of put the duvet on top, but you never really encase it. But that means that when you move around throughout the bed, your body will touch the duvet inner, and you simply cannot wash that once a week because it doesn't last as long as if you do that. So absolutely, if you have a duvet inner and it's cold in your country, put a duvet outer on it, and in the summer when it's too warm, you just put the duvet inner away and you just sleep with the duvet outer as a blanket.
Thank you for educating us, queen.
Easy. One of my favorite Swedish sayings is something like, "There is no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing." Very literal and very Swedish, but as a child this was normally printed on our weekly mailer at kindergarten or at school, which basically meant for our parents to remember to put proper clothing on us because we would be outside all day,
Smart wording.
no matter the weather. I think most people these days tend to stay inside when it's bad weather outside instead of just going out there, but by putting on proper clothing, it makes it so much easier to be outside in all weathers, and it's so much better for your health to be outside and breathe in the microbiome rather than just staying inside and watching TV. Another Swedish health hack for you guys. One of the things that I didn't think was weird, but that became obvious to me the moment I moved abroad, was the fact that we don't talk about race. The first time I heard the word Caucasian, I was 20 and living in Japan, and before that I had never heard any of these words, and it's just not something we talk about. Which brings me on to the next point, is that you never have to disclose this information if you, for example, go to the bank or going to the university. And that information is absolutely not necessary for the bank to know when I'm opening my bank account, and frankly, it's ridiculous. So do what the Swedish people do, I guess. Whilst we're speaking about politically sensitive subjects, let's speak about children. In Sweden, we treat our children with respect, and we treat them as already humans, which is something I really, really enjoy, and I think everyone should do. Kids don't have to address older people in a certain way. Kids don't really have to act in a certain way. Kids are really allowed to be kids, which means they're allowed to make mistakes, they're allowed to be upset, they don't have to hug someone if they don't want to, they don't have to kiss someone if they don't want to. Just completely reasonable things that I think every country should adopt. Kids are the best thing in the world, so I absolutely think we should treat kids with the utmost respect.
Yes, queen. I'm really enjoying these words that I'm hearing, let alone to be in a country and environment to practice these words as well. This is why Sweden should be a role model to the world, guys.
Now, this one, I don't know if it's for all of Sweden, but it's definitely something I've experienced a lot of times. But that is people, when I get invited to dinner parties, people ask me, "Is there something you don't eat?" My goodness, does it
Oh.
save so much trouble having a dinner party or going to a dinner party. I normally tell my best friend when I go to dinners at hers that I don't eat coriander or cilantro because I really, really don't like it. And it makes it a lot easier. One of the most important Swedish traditions is being whole and clean. Now, what does this mean? This is a deeply rooted tradition that goes so far back in Swedish history, but ultimately it means to always present yourself as best as you possibly can. Every time we had friends over, my family would just massively clean the entire house, not because it was necessarily dirty, but it's so important to uphold the standard of being whole and clean in Swedish society.
This is really, I just kind of relate to it because like I'm half Persian and I'm half Turkish, and so in our culture as well, it's really important to have a clean home. Like let's not just to say people judge, but if your home is like clean, people perceive you as a much neater and how can I say more hygienic person as you are. So it's really related to your home, and in our culture, it's really rooted in how you like take care of your home as well.
Another thing that I think is crazy that other countries have and that we don't have is that we don't really use the expression from scratch. Growing up, I didn't know that you could buy cake mixes. I had only seen it on TV. I had never really heard of it. I didn't know you could buy any sort of pre-made food or something that we call halvfabrikat, which technically means half-processed foods. Of course, this might differ a little bit, but in general, we don't say that we make things from scratch in Sweden. If you make a cake, you will make it from scratch.
Wow.
That's just how you make a cake. There's no other way to make a cake. You either buy it from the bakery or you make it from scratch. And I think that's also one of the reasons why we are quite a healthy country. One of the best Swedish culture.
This is one of another reasons that I adore like maybe as a whole, let me say, as like Scandinavian countries so much, like they really pay attention to what they are eating, about their health, about exercises, and guys, these little things that they just makes me to adore Scandinavia, like in a much whole another level, guys. This is amazing even to hear. And let me say that the guys, she's looking so beautiful. Those eyes and smile, just so positive and warm, like so beautiful.
Traditions that you've probably already heard about is fika. A fika is when you have a coffee, normally, or a tea, with a sweet treat, and you normally have it in the afternoon, but you can actually have it whenever. And this is one of the most common things we do when we go on dates or meet up with our friends. It's so cozy, it's really fun, but I also really like that it's one of the few things in Sweden where you can date someone or meet someone without drinking alcohol. Now, fika means different things in different languages, especially in Italian, so I would use it with caution and use it only when you're in Sweden.
So what does it mean in Italian? Is there any Italian watching the video, guys? Actually, let me say that I love like food more than people. I like especially like pastries and like sweets more than people. So this is just like a celebration for me. What a great culture! Wow, fika.
Going back to childcare, another thing that I really appreciate about Swedish culture that you should try if you have children is co-sleeping. My parents co-slept with me and my brother. Everyone I know, I think, co-slept. My sister co-slept with me or with her parents when she was with them. And I've never ever had any issues, heard any issues, or hear anyone talk badly about co-sleeping. Co-sleeping with your baby makes so much more sense because you don't have to wake up in the middle of the night and go into another room. Also, your baby's brain is not developed enough to know that you're not in the room, which makes it feel unsafe. Co-sleeping is literally the best option for sleeping with your baby. My dad built this really clever little half crib that he put next to the bed with a mattress and made it level to the bed. So I could be in the bed co-sleeping there at the same time as my mom was in the bed. Co-sleeping shouldn't be a term, I don't think. It shouldn't be a trend. It shouldn't be an idea. It should just be the most common way for sleeping with your baby.
Okay, as I told you, like I'm half Persian and half Turkish, and like in both cultures, mothers and fathers, especially mothers, they sleep like co-sleep with their children, like up until they're like 7 or 8, but my experience was a little bit different. It's maybe a little, maybe this is weird to say that, but I co-slept with my dad up until like I was 20, and I used to hug him when I said, because it was just so cozy, and he was such a great dad, and like I always felt insecure when I was like sleeping with my dad. And yes, guys, it's always like weird to say that, but sometimes I really miss co-sleeping with my dad. Oh my god, guys, this is weird.
Another thing that is common in Sweden that isn't very common abroad is that both men and women call themselves feminists. In Sweden, people are generally more educated about feminism than in other countries, and I really like that we use the word more casually and without so much attachment to it that comes from other countries. A weird thing about Sweden that I thought was a bit quite strange is that we use the word more casually and without so much about feminism.
Okay, guys, where gender equality is closer to a reality, Iceland is doing the God's job. Finland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, as always, like the Nordic countries. This is like one of the reasons why I adore this, like, this region of world so much
than in other countries, and I really like that we use the word more casually and without so much attachment to it that comes from other countries. A weird thing about Sweden that I thought was a bit quite strange is that our school is a lot easier than any other school in the world. Now, I don't know exactly how accurate this is, but I know that in general in Sweden we are very educated. However, our school, especially I think middle school and preschool, is a lot easier than, for example, in England or in New Zealand. We have way less assignments, way less homework, but somehow it still works. Unfortunately, this trend is changing and we're becoming a bit more like the rest of the world, but I really think homework is ridiculous and we shouldn't have it.
That's sad.
One weird thing we do in Sweden, but I think we shouldn't do, so disregard this one, is that we don't really date. Although I'm Swedish, I've never dated a Swedish guy because I think I've only had 2 Swedish guys ever hit on me in my entire life.
What?
But in general, we don't really date. We don't really have a period of dating where you can see other people, or normally you're just sort of not together and then you're sort of together. Dating in Sweden is very weird. That is why I've been so unsuccessful at it. And yeah, I find it a bit uncomfortable. And I think Sweden, in fact, should adopt how people date in other countries, because I think it makes way more sense and it's a much more adult way of dating. Something we do in Sweden is that we learn English very early.
So is it just like you either like someone and start a relationship with them, or you don't like at all?
Early. This also makes so much sense because it's easier to learn a language when you're young. And voila, most people speak English, which is such a useful skill to have if you want to live in another country or have any job where you don't work in Sweden. All right, so we're going even more political. Time for religion.
Okay, guys, here we're getting
building your online business,
and until we skip the ad, actually, like all the people I've seen, and I visited from Sweden, they had like perfect English, and I was always amazed that how is that possible? Like your first language is not English, and then they always they used to tell me that they learned English while they were young, and this is the secret. This is the reason why, guys. You're amazing. You're amazing.
One thing we don't do in Sweden is we're not really religious or go to church, even though Wikipedia might say otherwise. So this has changed since then, but when I grew up and my entire generation, we couldn't choose to be enrolled in the Swedish church system. That just happened automatically when we were born, no matter if we were baptized or not. We just went straight into the Swedish church system, which is also the system you have to be in if you want to be buried in a churchyard, or if you want to be married in a church, if you want to get baptized in a church, etc., etc. So this is a quite fun fact compared to other countries, because if you look at Wikipedia, it says most Swedish people are religious, but that's simply because we are enrolled in church. Now, say what you want about religion, but I, for one, am a person who thinks that we should practice what we preach. And since most people have lots of sex before marriage, drink a ridiculous amount of alcohol, and do all other sorts of gluttonous things, I think it makes complete sense that most people don't go to church. I remember going to church in kindergarten for our summer ending, and I remember my priest had leather pants and played a rock and roll guitar.
Oh my god, this is the kind of, like, I'm not a religious person, but this is the kind of church if I ever wanted to, like, visit a church. Oh my god.
All thought was very, very fun. We are a land of wonderful and quirky, weird, strange traditions. In Sweden, we have something called jantedagen, which practically means be humble, but also never talk well about yourself. So there are pros and cons about this law. It's an unwritten law, but one of the good things about it is that Swedish people are in general very comfortable and quiet, or maybe better is to say not loud people. So it's very nice to be around Swedish people. No one ever yells, no one ever tries to really be the center of attention, no one really, speaks really loud.
Oh my god, this is amazing! Guys, this culture is so amazing.
One of my favorite things we do in Sweden, which does not work in English, is that we don't really have a word for please. Now you can use snälla, which means like most kindly or can you kindly, or you can use tack, which means thank you. But we don't really have a word for please. I love learning languages because this is those little parts about a language and a culture that you won't really learn unless you know the language. So I love speaking English. I love using the word please. But I also love speaking Swedish and being able to sneak in a tack or a snälla where Swedish people normally don't and sound like the most friendly and polite person in the world. So it's a win-win. So, okay, my friends, I did not think we'd go this political. I have written this video down. It's very funny because when I translate these very regular Swedish ideas to English, they suddenly become so much more political. Swedish people are generally
okay, guys, I think like this video
extremely nice, and it's such a nice culture to live in, and I think that's why so many people...
Okay, guys, I think like this video has ended, and thank you. Like, first of all, go and show some love to the like original video creator. Like, she's amazing. Thank you so much for like educating us with like so many like great Swedish tips that we can use it in our daily lives. Please go and check and show some love to the original video creator. And guys, each day that passes by, I really fall in love with like Scandinavia and Sweden. Like, you guys are so amazing. Like, there's so many great stuff that, like, they're, whether they're like big or like little details that it's like, you guys are so appreciable, like, from my side. And I really wish someday I could have this chance to come and visit like one of these countries, and to leave all the things that I'm hearing, all the great things that I'm hearing from the culture that's existing in these countries. Yes, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. If you like it, please comment, like, and subscribe. Love, peace, and unity, and until the next one, peace out.